Hey, what's going on, everybody? So I have been using Zoom lately for a lot of my video interviews, being that we are in a pandemic. And as a documentary filmmaker, primarily I just talk to people for a living and happen to record the conversations. So since getting in front of people is a bit more challenging, I've been doing a lot more interviews via Zoom. Now, when I first started doing this, I had never actually done a Zoom interview before. So there were some things that I messed up on initially that I didn't understand, and then things that I've now implemented. And it was a little difficult at first to try to figure out how to record interviews for documentaries on Zoom. I was expecting that information to just be readily available, but if you type in video interview on Zoom, the majority of what you're finding now is like interviewing for a job on Zoom and not making a video interview, right? So I'll just sort of like walk you guys through what I have learned and what I'm currently doing. I'm currently on the free option, and the reason for that is using the free option, you don't have to pay to record a video when you're doing a one-on-one interview. You can talk for an unlimited amount of time, and you can record for an unlimited amount of time. It's actually very convenient. The inconvenience is when you add more than one person, two people. So more than two people per call, then you can only record up to 40 minutes with the free version. So recording, say, like a meeting with clients is a little bit more complicated, but just for one-on-one interviewing, it's actually pretty fantastic. The setups that you kind of want to, make sure that your settings are correct for recording video, you just go to the settings bar. You want to go down to your recording tab, all right? And then up in location, you can choose the location to save your recordings. I'm currently choosing to save it on my main drive, and then I just move them over to my external drives after the recording. You can also select the option when the recording ends to choose that secondary save option. So it'll pop up, it'll say, hey, where else do you want to save it? And you can just let it know where to save it from there. The other thing to check here is record a separate audio file for each participant. Now that's convenient because it will record all of our audio together, but then it will also separate out each individual speaker. So I'll be able to have a completely separate file of my audio as well as a completely separate file for the person I'm interviewing. And then I've also got record video during screen sharing. I'm not even sure if I really need that. I've not shared my screen yet. I think that's just up there. It's got this thing for optimized for third-party video editor. Also, I don't understand what that is. I haven't researched that yet, so might be good to look into that to see if that's something that you actually need. Those are the main settings that I have. Outside of that, that's kind of it setting-wise. So one thing that I failed to mention is that you cannot change your frame rate, nor can you change your resolution. So your frame rate is stuck at 25 frames per second, and your resolution is stuck at 1280 by 720. The one thing you want to keep in mind, though, is when you're interviewing somebody, it's very important what mode you are using. So I didn't do this the first time I did this, and I really messed up. And what I mean is that there's a couple different speaker layouts you can use in Zoom. You can use the active speaker mode, which is whoever is talking is the person that will show up on screen, right? And then you can use the gallery view, which basically does the Partridge Family setup. But when you're one-on-one person, it'll do it side by side. The downside to using that is if you were to record in the gallery mode, it records that side-by-side view, making your person that you've just recorded, their image is super tiny. So that is not what you want at all. What you want to do is you want to select the active speaker view. And then after you answer a question, you want to mute yourself. That way, it doesn't pick you up as an active speaker if you laugh at something they say or if you have to cough or whatever. Oh, God, itchy nose. But you want to mute yourself so that way it doesn't pick you back up in the active speaker mode. So it's just Alt-A is the short key, is the keyboard shortcut to mute yourself, Alt-A. And then once you're muted, you can actually press and hold the space bar as if you're like using a radio. So you can actually press and hold the space bar to ask a quick question, release it, and then you're still muted, and they are able to have free reign over that recording. It's not going to go back and forth between you two. It should just stay on them. So that's essentially keeps that good. However, what I found is even with Zoom recording the separate audio file for them, it's not the best audio quality. So I've got a solution for that. Essentially what I'm using is an external recorder. So I've got a Y-splitter. Here, let me show you. So essentially I use a Y-splitter, which will send, and on one of these I have my headphones plugged into. The other one is plugged into a portable audio recorder. Okay, this is just a very inexpensive audio recorder. This is the Tascam DR05. I don't really feel like I need to use anything more robust because I'm just splitting out the headphone output, right? I could use something more fancy, but this is working, and it's working really well. So I split out the headphone output to the recorder. I'm recording it here, as well as I have a backup recording through Zoom. So the Zoom recording isn't nearly as robust as the recording I'm getting from my Tascam recorder. I think it's preserving more of the frequency range than what I'm hearing from the Zoom recording. It's preserving more of those bass tones, those bass frequencies than what I'm hearing from the Zoom.
It can, yeah, if done correctly. And, it doesn't mean that all of a sudden, it can, yeah, if done correctly. And, it doesn't mean that all of a sudden.
That's about it. Essentially, it's just make sure that that you are in fact recording. You can set these up when you actually schedule your Zoom call so that it automatically records once the call starts. Just make sure that you are abiding by your laws and they understand that they will be recorded. I mean, obviously it's going to be for a video interview, so just make sure that you are stating that up front. And then it's basically just like the checkbox for record a separate audio file, and then I'm splitting the headphone out to the audio recorder, and the most important is the screen view. Use the active speaker view, and while you're on the active speaker view, mute yourself and keep yourself muted so that way you don't interfere with what they're saying, and your video interview should be about as good as they can be via webcam. All right. Also, too, make sure to prep your interviewee before the interview. Give them a heads up about lighting and composition. There's a lot of videos online about teaching people how to set up their webcam, put it at eye level, how to frame themselves. So I just went ahead and sent them a link to those videos and summarized the tips in the calendar invite as well. And everyone who has shown up has been like flawless. They've all paid attention, got their lighting set up right, framed themselves perfectly. So it's been totally great. So definitely do that as well. All right. So I hope this is super helpful for you. Hope that this will help you when you're conducting your video interviews so you can kind of avoid the initial mistakes that I made. All right. Take care, everybody. Peace.